Hello, my friend. On today's podcast, I'm back for the fourth time on the podcast with Business of Unicorns coach Wendy Shafransky. And what we're talking about are kind of a serious topic, but hopefully a not too serious way, which is it time to sell your gym? Is this the moment where you decide you want to get off the train and stop being a gym owner? And so in this podcast, we want to kind of normalize that as a normal question that I think a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners should ask themselves on a somewhat regular basis. And we go through our experience, having exited Mark Fisher Fitness recently, and Wendy recently exited a supplements company. We share our experience in deciding to exit a business. We share how we did it. And so that you too have a little bit of tools to ask yourself some good questions when you're inevitably struck with the question, do I even want to keep doing this anymore? So if you've ever had that thought, this is a great episode for you. Keep on listening. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to let you know that we have a free new tool on our website that we just put up there. And it's because for many of you, it's really hard to think of what the right offer is to make at your gym. Offers to make to your leads, offers to make people on your email list, offers to make to people on social media, offers that are going to get people's attention and get them to take action. So what we did is we put together a whole list of our best converting offers, ones that we've used at Mark Fisher Fitness, ones that all of our Unicorn Signing members have used, and we put it in one PDF that you can go grab right now. There's a link down below in the show notes. You can download it immediately, and it's a list of our best performing offers you can put on social media, email, etc. And so what are you waiting for? It's free. There's no strings attached. Just go grab the tool, and I hope you start using it this very week to drive more leads. Which brings me to today's episode. Back on the podcast again for the third time, maybe fourth time. Jeez Louise, is Business for Unicorns coach, founder of Vero Strength and Conditioning, Vero Beach, Florida. It's the fabulous Wendy Shafransky. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
4 times. You might actually have the record at this point. Okay. Aside from Mark and Ben and Pete, you might be at the top of the pile, Miss Wendy. How have you been? How's life?
Life is good. Gym is busy, just employed a new coach. So I'm now not on the floor so much. So yeah.
What a great feeling. Good for you. I know we were talking before, and the new coach you employed had been a member. And so I love when that happens. And you could take someone who's already been part of your culture and your community and turn them into a trainer. What a great move. Good for you. Well, for anyone who maybe doesn't know much about you, hasn't listened to any of the podcasts you were on before, maybe just give a brief introduction to who you are, what you do.
Okay. Yeah, I own Vero Strength and Conditioning, which is a Gen Pop strength and conditioning gym in Vero Beach, Florida. We opened in 2009, so we're on 16 years now.
Wow.
And lots of great members. We have a legacy board of 6-year plus members, and I think it's probably half our membership. So really great community. And I'm almost hitting a year being a BFU accountability coach as well. So
amazing.
Awesome.
Amazing. It's been so fun working with you, and I knew it was going to be fun, and it's been. My dreams have come true. That's awesome. Well, all right. So today's topic, this topic came up because we were brainstorming what we talk about, and both of us have recently gone through a transition where we've kind of stepped away from a business, and we hear on a regular basis, at least one call a month with me, maybe 2 or 3 some months, is getting on a call with a Unicorn Signing member who owns a gym who was like, do I even want to do this anymore? Is it time to get off the train? I obviously sold Mark Fisher Fitness at the end of last year. You were just stepping away from a business that you co-created of supplements. So both of us were like, well, we're very qualified to talk about our own experience in doing that and helping others think through that core question of, do I even want to do this anymore? Because it's super tricky. So let's just maybe start with our own experiences. You want to talk a little first about what was your supplements company and what were some things that started to tell you that, oh, it might be time to get off this train?
Right. So Sears Performance is the name of the supplement company. It's still in existence. I had a partner, Jeff Evans, who is great. There wasn't, partnership issues as there are in so many businesses, but e-commerce is tough. If I had to do it all over again, I would have never, done an e-commerce business.
Yeah.
But, for 4.5 years, it was just a big grind. And Yeah, I wasn't seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We were accumulating a lot of debt.
Hmm.
So I just, had to reflect and make a tough decision.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And I think the thing that people underappreciate, especially people who are maybe often investors or silent partners, is that when you're an entrepreneur and you are literally got your hands dirty making this thing, birthing this thing, growing this
Mhm.
thing, spending every day on this thing, learning all different components of this business, letting it go can be part practical and strategic, like while we're accumulating debt, I don't want to go down that path. But it's also emotional. Can you just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the emotional part?
Yeah. I mean, one is, I'm the type of person, if I signed up for something, I'm going to see it through. I don't give
Yeah.
up easily. I like to get things done. But, so there's emotions there, emotions of, am I letting someone down? I'm handling a lot of this stuff and then I'm just going to have to pass it off to someone else.
Yeah.
He's a friend. I don't want to, disappoint him. So yeah, there's all those emotions.
Yeah, those expectations we have of ourselves, like, oh, I'm not a quitter, or those expectations, those concerns and cares we have for other people. I don't want to let them down. I don't disappoint them. I don't want to make their life harder. All of that is wrapped up in a decision like this
Mhm.
to walk away. So when you finally did walk away, what parts of that went well for you that you can share with our listeners? Like, what did you do that worked for kind of stepping away?
The thing I did, I actually worked really hard on was making the transition for my partner
Mm,
as helpful as possible.
yep.
I was in charge of things like email marketing and, these weekly videos on mindset and, blog posts and all that stuff. So I basically got him 2 months ahead of schedule
Mm,
so that he could either, kind of work ahead or find somebody to fill that role, but he'd have time.
sure.
So, and it was just, it started with an honest conversation. And it was very respectful. And he said, well, now I need a couple days to think about this too, if I want to
Hmm.
even continue. And then he decided ultimately he wanted to see this through. So, yeah, I think just open and honest communication and just
Yeah.
really trying to leave the best way, most honorable way possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, like in this case, you had to do a lot of extra work to get
Mhm.
off the train, right? You had to do a lot of extra work to exit, which is, it's just kind of the hardest time to do extra work is when you have that kind of senioritis or you've already
Mhm.
decided that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going away, right? To do all that extra work at that moment is hard, but I mean, it
Mhm.
speaks to your character, right? It
Yeah.
speaks to the fact that you're someone who wants to not burn any bridges and actually leave the place better than you found it,
Right,
right?
right. And I think
And
it would be easier. I mean, this particular instance would be easier than, say, if I one day decided I don't want the gym anymore,
sure.
because you're so in tune with your customers and
Yeah, of
it's
course.
so much more emotional.
So much more personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll just share. I think our stories have a little overlap and a bunch of difference. But I mean, I've talked about it before on the podcast. So I'll just give kind of a Cliff Notes summary of my experience. But my decision to sell Mark Fisher Fitness happened a little bit more slowly for me over a few years, right?
Mhm.
And so I hadn't really been operationally involved much for probably a few years post COVID here. And so I had been, attending some meetings and planning meetings, and I was always the person people called when shit really hit the fan. Someone was
Mhm.
going to sue us, or someone got hurt, or we had to fire someone. Right? I always got those. I still did that stuff,
Yeah.
not the least sexy stuff. And so because of that, it had been a long time since I was really involved in anything fun
Mhm.
or any of the day to day things. And so for me, it was a really easy decision to say, okay, well, if there's someone else in my seat, there's someone else who can take these late night phone calls or these handle these issues. This business doesn't really need me. And my heart really wasn't in the day to day. So, MFF was doing pretty well. Was it doing as well, the best ever? No. But part of my calculus really had nothing to do with, oh, things are going well or we're accumulating debt. Mine was really about, I think someone else could do this better. Like
Mhm.
someone else's heart could be more in this, who wants to be here more and every day and really wants to own a gym and really wants to be there with the team and for the clients on a regular basis. And over time, that just became less and less exciting of an idea for me. And there's
Mhm.
other things that were way more exciting, like coaching business owners.
Yeah.
So much more exciting. Like getting my PhD, so much more exciting. Working with other businesses on their culture and their leadership development. I was like, that seems exciting to me. But then going into a gym and having a team meeting or talking to clients at the gym, over time, it just, my heart wasn't in it. So a big decision for me was really probably more emotional of just being like, someone better could do this.
Right.
And I was right. Right? We found someone in Coach Fury who was like, oh, I want to be there every day. I want to be a gym owner. That's the most exciting thing I could do with my life right now. And I was like, oh, you should be doing this instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
It just made so much sense. And listen, I think in both cases, you and I are had a lucky version of an exit,
Yes.
right? That I found someone I knew and I trusted that was ready for a purchase at the right time, that you had a partner who was willing to kind of keep the thing going and was receptive to your exit. And I want to acknowledge that even though I think we both did a lot right to make that the case, it's also a little bit of luck. Right.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of luck. It could have gone a different way for both of us. And so I think that's a big piece of it. If I was to answer my own question that I posed to you, I think the things that I did that I think worked for me and for the process were a lot of what you said. This is where I think we have the most overlap. It was like, how do we set them up for the most success? How do we make sure that our leadership team is ready for this transition well in advance? How do I make sure our SOPs and all that are really in place and he's got a soft place to land, that he as an owner knows what he's getting into? So Mark and I spent a lot of time talking to Coach Fury about what to expect, what his job is going to be, how that things will change. Now that he's going to walk into the building as the owner, it's going to be a very different experience than when you walk, because he, for those of you who don't know, the person who bought Mark for Sure Fitness used to be an employee. And so it's just going to be different. So we spent a lot of time expectation setting. I mean, like, I think even before we knew we had a deal, we were talking to the leadership team about what this transition might look like. And so there's a lot of just laying the groundwork for the change. And then obviously giving people time to process all those changes and being there for answer their questions and support them when they had hesitations and concerns. And so like you, we did a lot of work to make that transition happen. Let me pose a question maybe for both of us. Is there anything that we would have done differently? Is there anything about letting go of a business that we learned that we're like, oh, you know what? I wish they would have. Anything you do differently in terms of lessons learned?
I think I probably let it go a little too long,
Mm-hmm.
because I was not happy in it for quite some time.
Yeah.
Hoping it would change, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, that whole thing,
Yep. 100%. Yeah, it's so tough though, because there's so much of our identity that gets wrapped up into it.
Right.
I know so many of my friends and people I know in New York City are because of Mark Fisher Fitness.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea that I'm not that guy anymore, it was just like that was a challenge for me. I would say I probably would have let it go sooner if it wasn't for Mark. I think Mark was not ready as early as I would. And Mark, if you're listening and that's not the case, let me know. But I'm pretty sure I was ready a little bit before, maybe a year or two earlier. And I think once Mark was ready, I was like, oh, we're both in this place now, which was helpful. Even though I could have walked away earlier, but I probably wouldn't have left him to do it on his own. But yeah, I think any lessons I would have learned to do differently. I will say ours was a little rushed. Ours happened pretty fast. And part of that I like, and having it too spread out. But if we had a little bit more time, I wouldn't have minded so much.
Mm-hmm.
We really only started talking to Fury in I think my memory serves maybe September, October. And the deal was done as of January 1st.
Yeah.
And so that's just it wasn't a lot of time. I really would have probably liked to, dot a few I's and cross a few more T's and really support everyone through the transition with a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's one thing I wish I would have had more time on. The other one is I was not prepared for the kind of legal gymnastics required to sell a business. Not that I didn't know it was coming, but I just didn't really budget for it financially. Emotionally, time wise, the fact that once lawyers get involved, they just make things fucking complicated, and it gets expensive so fast, right? To have lawyers drive doing contracts and things. So, if anything, any kind of advice I would give about things that would different, I would just be more prepared for that. I would have some money set aside for the lawyering. I'd have some patience and time set aside to communicate with them, and be ready for the drafts, and really get clear. Because one of the things that we learned without spilling too much behind the scenes tea here is our lawyers actually started to lawyer up and made it a less friendly process. Right. Whereas like we were very friendly, like with Fury, we could pick up the phone and talk about anything, but then our lawyers were just like lawyering each other,
right.
and we were like, wait, that's not the vibe we're going for here. We're friends with the
Yeah.
person we're selling to, and so I wish I could have set better ground rules or expectations or boundaries with the lawyers, because
Hmm.
they were going in, I think, doing what they thought was best for both parties, but also they did do it in the very friendly way. So I think, setting that up in advance would have been useful.
Hey there, Business for Unicorns podcast listeners. If you haven't had a chance yet to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast, it would be so awesome if you take just a quick second to do that. And here's why. Number one, by leaving us a rating and review, you'll allow our podcast audience to grow so more gym owners can build a life and a gym they love. And number two, by leaving us feedback, you'll help us shape the future of the podcast so we know what you like, we know what you don't like, and we know what types of content is resonating and what else should we create for you. Thank you so much for your consideration. And now back to the show.
Let me ask you this. So for people who are listening, and we've talked with a lot of Unicorn Summit members who are in this, who are thinking, who have those days where they're like, you know what, today, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Today might be the day that I decide to throw in the hat. Like, what do we tell people to do in those moments when they're like, this might be the last straw. I don't have any more patience left. I don't have any more energy left, or I don't have any more money left. Whatever the stressor is, what do we tell people to do in that moment? What's your advice?
Well, this is what was helpful for me. Was one is, really get into the why you're feeling this way. Was it this, did one thing happen that kind of triggered you, even though I don't like the word triggered?
Yeah.
But like in our industry, we get close with our members. We spend a lot of time with them. We give a lot of ourselves to them. And so if someone quits, sometimes that makes us want to just throw in the towel. So is it something like that, or is this an ongoing thing? How long have you been thinking and feeling this way? For me, I took a half a day off. I said I had some coaching calls in the morning, and then my afternoon was pretty free. So I said, you know what? I'm turning off my phone. I'm just going to really reflect on this. I weighed out the pros and the cons. If I were to stay, it needs to look like this. This is what I like doing. This is what I don't like doing, just kind of just brain dump to really get to the essence of why I'm feeling this way and how I could possibly save it or not.
Yeah, that's so smart, Wendy. I mean, this is why you're the greatest. Is I think so many people can't separate like the noise from the signal, right? That in some cases we just had a bad day, or we had a long-term client leave, or we had a coach piss us off, or we had a business partner and I are not getting along, and that in the moment frustration can lead us to making maybe some rash decisions. And so making sure that part of our response in those moments is to slow down and be like, what is this? This is a one-time thing. It was just a fight or an argument or a fire I had to put out. Like what actually is happening right now? Or is this like a long-term thing? Has this been going on for months and months or years?
Right.
Where I'm constantly feeling like this is not a great use of my time and energy, or I'm constantly being stressed out at these key moments on a regular basis, or I'm constantly feeling underappreciated. Or is there some long-term kind of chronic nature to it? And I think, taking some time off to reflect on that is essential.
Yes.
Most of us are so busy every day. You can't throughout your day create the space to do it unless you really create the space to do it, right? Go for a long walk, take a half a day off, take a long weekend, take whatever you need to let yourself have the brain space to really like sit with your feelings. I think that's so smart. One of the things I've recommended a few people do is to kind of keep a journal about this ongoing dialogue in their head, even for a few weeks, for a few months. But part of that was that same reason that you said, which is to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? To say like, is this just a bunch of annoying random things that happen, or is this a pattern that's pointing me to the fact that like this is the wrong setup for me? I think similar to a journal, a pros and cons list is fantastic. I think if people have a business partner, I would sit down and share, both of us make a pros and cons list and share it with each other would be super helpful. Maybe not at first, but after you do it separately, that could be really useful. Excuse
I
me.
mean, gym ownership has some huge pros. I mean,
Yeah.
one, you're impacting people. Two, you're your own boss. I mean, you're not accruing vacation time and you don't need to get approval for
Hmm.
things. And so those are some big ones. But if there's things that you just don't like doing, it's not to say you should walk away. Maybe you need some people to do those things for you. I mean, look at Ben. He's,
Hmm.
works what 3 or 4 hours a week on his business, and he's
Yeah.
got, that income. And that's what I advised actually on a call recently. A BFU member had an idea for another business, and he's not on the floor a lot. And I said, well, why can't you just kind of explore this other thing while you have income coming in?
Yeah.
You know, don't don't make any rash decisions. Like
100%.
I've always had a side hustle, so
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think once people can get over the hump that, oh, I can design this business where it doesn't need me every day,
mhm,
then you get the freedom to try other things and explore side hustles or hobbies or more quality time with family or your own health and wellness. And that gives more options. But I think the people who I see get overwhelmed the most and go through this cycle of maybe I should just throw it all in, I think are the people who are stuck working in the business
yeah,
every day and feel a little stuck and suffocated and shackled
yeah.
and all those things. And so I think once people can break through that, they're less likely to have those moments. And you're right, there's so many long-term perks to being self-employed. And so I think that's really key. What would it I'm just curious, what would it take for you to want to sell your gym?
Old age. Yeah, I mean, I turned 50 this year, so that's like a big number of like, all
Yeah.
right, half your life is gone. Like, what do you want to do? So
Yeah.
you start thinking about retirement,
Hmm.
eventually. So, I think, that would probably be it.
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
time
it's,
to
yeah,
retire. Yeah.
I love the people I see every day. I love my employees. I support myself, my husband, with this business. So, yeah, it would just be kind of like, all right, you know what? I don't want to be 70 and,
Yeah.
running a gym, but
Yeah. Yeah,
still
yeah,
working
that's
towards
it. I
that.
think that's for a lot of folks. They're in it until retirement. And listen, for those of you listening who are like, you're not going to make it to retirement age, that's okay. You have some options.
Mhm.
You have options. There's plenty of people we talk to on a regular basis that do have success in selling their gym. I don't think most people out there with the size of gyms that we work with, Unicorn Society, none of you are going to get rich
Right.
off of that,
Yeah.
right? But it's some good money in your pocket that helps you, either squirrel some money away for retirement or have a little bit of income until you figure out, what's next. So I think
Mhm.
there are a lot of paths for gym owners, but I wanted really to do this podcast today with you, Wendy, to kind of normalize the idea that if you don't question your existential existence as a gym owner on a regular basis, on a somewhat regular basis, you're not really paying attention.
Yes.
I think it's such a normal experience to have, I don't know, a few times per year to be a little frustrated and be like, do I even want to do this? I think it's a good question to ask. I
Right.
don't think it needs to be dramatic or, or
Right.
anger filled, but I think it's a good question to ask, was to say, just because I started this thing and I'm growing this thing and I'm doing it, doesn't mean this always has to be what I do. This doesn't
Mhm.
always have to be my identity. And you get to make that choice, my friends. I think it's a great and normal question. And hopefully we've given you some thoughts about, what you can do when that question comes up. In closing, any other thoughts for our listeners, Wendy, on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I just one thing that I took away from my exit was I didn't see it as a failure,
Mm,
and I think
yeah.
that's important. I can name so many things I learned over the last 4.5 years that helped me in this business at BFU, whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's important to never look at if you do end up selling or deciding you don't want to be a leader or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, you're in debt. There are always lessons. So it's just,
100%.
yeah.
That's really beautiful. I think that's a good way to end. To really make sure you can frame this as like an exit as just the next chapter, and
Mhm.
really be appreciative of all the things that for that chapter of being a gym owner has given to you. I'll be forever grateful. I mean, I got so much out of it. Not only most of my best friends and my husband and
Yes. Yeah.
and money and community, so many things, but I learned so many life lessons about myself. I'll be forever grateful for those, almost 15 years of MFF. And moving on just means that there's other and more things I want to do with my life. It doesn't have to negate those chapters that were so meaningful to me and so many others. So I think
How
it's
do
a,
you feel now, though? Like, how
yeah.
do you feel not having that as part of
Yeah,
your?
I mean, I think it's, it's still pretty new. It's only been a few months.
Mhm.
And so I still kind of forget once in a while, that happened,
Yeah.
and I'll just, I'll be walking around Manhattan and think, oh, I can swing by MFF. And I'm like, well, should I ask first?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing pops up once in a while, or I'll run into people who don't know that it happened and I have to kind of re-explain. But honestly, I feel great about it. 99.9% of the time when I think about what we did and what, the way it happened, the timing that it happened in, I feel great about that. And part of it was for me that I had already built this other place that needed me in Business for Unicorns. Right.
Hmm.
I've been doing
Right.
Business for Unicorns now for a bunch of years. So
Yeah.
I already had a very busy side hustle for a lot of years. And so I wasn't leaving the gym with nothing to look
Mhm.
forward to. So I had a very warm landing pad. Same thing with Mark, right? We were already very much invested in this other business. And Mark also has an alloy. So Mark still is a gym
Oh
owner,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, it's just a little bit of a shift. But yeah, I think we both at this point, I think I can speak for both of us and say, I think we still feel really great about what happened and how it
Yeah.
happened. And I hope for any gym owners out there that do decide they want an exit, that they can find an exit they feel great about afterwards.
Yes.
I
Feel
hope
that
that for everyone.
peace. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks as always, Wendy. This is so great. Thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your lessons. It's always great to have you, and I'm sure you'll be back on many more times.
Oh, thanks. I love
For
talking to
people,
you.
yeah, for people who want to find you and learn more about the gym, where do they find you on the interwebs?
Verostrength.com, Vero Strength on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, y'all just go
Huge.
go check out Wendy and her gym. She's doing great stuff. You want an example of someone who's just crushing out there in the world with really high integrity and creativity. It's Wendy. Go check her out. And if you want to learn how to make better offers to the people in your marketing, on your social media, in your emails, click the link down in the show notes and get our PDF of our best converting offers. It's free, immediate download. Go get it. You'll be glad you did. Thanks, Wendy. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.